So let's just talk very briefly about Buddhism, like a brief guidelines of what this religion means. First of all, this is a quote, a famous quote of Siddhartha Gautama. It says, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world." So just for you to remember how deep in terms of internal awareness Buddha was. So first of all, what is Buddhism? It is known as the middle way of wisdom and compassion. It's a 2,500-year-old tradition that began in India and then it spread throughout the Far East, basically China and Japan. It could be considered a philosophy, a religion, and a spiritual practice based on the teachings of the Buddha. There are three basic jewels of Buddhism. First of all, the Buddha, who is the teacher. The second jewel is Dharma, which are the teachings, and the Sangha, which is the community. These are the three most important beliefs of inside Buddhism. Who was the Buddha? As you saw in the video, he was born Siddhartha Gautama. He belonged to a noble caste in India back in the 500s before Common Era. He was raised in great luxury. He was going to become a king. Then he turned away of his castle at age 29, and he became an ascetic for almost 6 years until he reached finally enlightenment when he sat on the Bodhi tree. And it is said that he achieved nirvana, which is referred to as an awakening to the truth about life. He became the awakened one at the age of 35, and he spent the rest or his remaining 45 years of life teaching others how to achieve a peace of mind that he had achieved. What Buddhists believe? Well, first of all, they believe in reincarnation, but as a reconfiguration of basic energies, not as self, which is very different from what Hinduist believes. When you talk about transmigration of the soul, for example, there are 5 precepts that are basic to every Buddhist. First of all, abstain from harming any living being. Second of all, taking anything when it's not given. Sensual misconduct, false speech, and losing control through intoxication. It is said that when you liberate your soul, it is because you are embracing the Four Noble Truths. And we're going to see what the Four Noble Truths are in a while. They also believe in rebirth, which is the result from attachments or the karma. They believe in nirvana, which is translated as a peaceful, detached state of mind. And by achieving nirvana, it means that you have escaped the cycle of rebirth. It is said that when Buddha died after 80 years of life, he achieved nirvana, but he ceased to exist as a distinct being. But there's a question here. He returns. Once he has achieved nirvana, he decides if he wants to return and be incarnated in a human body. Buddhism is non-theistic, which means that Buddha is not the god. He's just like a teacher. Here you can see the Bodhi tree. And well, the Four Noble Truths. This is very important since this is like basic for Buddhists. The first noble truth is ordinary life brings about suffering. And this might remind you the question that Siddhartha Gautama always asked himself, why do humans suffer? The second question is the origin of suffering is attachment. When you're attached to material things or possessions or feelings or things that you have on the inside that are not letting you live happily. The third one is the cessation of suffering is attainable, which means when you recognize that you can stop suffering. And fourth, there is an eightfold path to the cessation of suffering. And the eightfold path can be represented as a symbol, which is the Dharma wheel. That is exactly what you're looking at a picture right now. The Dharma wheel, it's or means the eightfold path, which is like a recipe for becoming enlightened. or for living a more righteous life. Everything has to do with rights, with righteousness. First of all, wisdom, right understanding, the right motivation and intent. In terms of moral discipline, to have right speech, to have right action, and to have right livelihood. In terms of mental discipline, it's to have right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. So as you can see, this is the Eightfold Path, or the Dharma wheel, once again, and that is why you see it right here as this symbol. And in here you can read more or less, if you want to pause it so that you can read each of the meanings of the Eightfold Path, or the recipe for stopping the suffering that we have in our lives. These are the last three parts of the Eightfold Path. And how is Buddhism different from Hinduism? Well, first of all, Buddhism is going to reject the authority of the ancient Vedic text. In other words, you remember the Vedas? Well, Buddhism rejects that the Vedas have like moral authority. They also reject what is the Vedic caste system and the Vedic and Hindu deities. For Buddhists, there are no gods such as Brahma or Vishnu or Shiva, so those are Hinduist deities. And of course, the concept of the Brahman and the concept of rituals and worship in the Vedas are not relevant for Buddhists. So this is just like a very brief video so that you can sort of capture some things that were not mentioned in the video that we saw of the life of Buddha.